Good morning. Since we did the transformation of this kitchen, that before and after, which has been the last transformation of this channel. In fact, doubts of all kinds have not stopped arising. So today I bring you a questions and answers about the new kitchen of the villa. Let's start. Wow, what a crash. It has happened. I have all the questions here noted on my phone since I put a little box for questions and answers on Instagram. Could you provide more details about how the upper cabinets are attached? Is the installation okay? The upper furniture has an anchoring system. Through some plates, a kind of plate that you simply make some holes in the wall, place the plate and this accessory, you place it on the furniture and it basically hangs. What we did was to get the screw to the final wall. Let's say that here was the plasterboard, but in the back is the load-bearing wall of the wall itself. And with these screws, we got to the very bottom. And this way, we made sure that it had maximum support, a much stronger support than if it was directly attached to the plasterboard. You just place those plates that each two pieces of furniture share, and you put them in place, and that's it. Then you put the door on, and you're done. Do you have light? Not anymore. We don't have light as of today. I hope to have it soon, but I've already lost, like hope. There are many issues I hope and wish that they put us in this coming week. But I know that many of you thought we had, because the kitchen seemed to be on. And of course, everything leads to believe that we did have light, but no, the truth is that we didn't. We did. Like a splice of the kitchen electricity with the solar battery that we have, and so we were able to have light a few moments. Perhaps we were about half an hour with light in the kitchen, basically to be able to record, and there was no more time. In fact, under the kitchen goes an LED strip to create indirect lighting and thus create a dim light. They can help when cooking or at night so the light isn't too bright. And we haven't even put it up yet because since we don't have light, well, we'll buy it later. The wall plates are very expensive, I understand. They are the plates, the ceramic ones, I understand, or the plasterboard ones. I don't know if we are going to explain both, better just in case. The plate ones are, well, economical as far as it goes. Well, if they are economical, there are different types of plates. There are the normal plates and then the plates hydrophobic, which are the ones, well, we just installed a 8 feet 2 inches x 3 feet 11 inches kitchen, which I believe are these dimensions. It has a price of €5 per square meter, so it's €14 with something, 14 with 75 each plate. Here in the kitchen, if I remember correctly, we used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 10 plates. We used 10 plates to cover the entire kitchen. It was perfect. If you're referring to these plates here, which are the tile ones, which, by the way, I'm fascinated by, these tiles are incredibly beautiful. They have this veining, which is the same color as the countertop, and besides, they are of very good quality, because they were very thick. These, if I remember correctly. Anyway, I will leave all the links in the description for you. But if I remember correctly, the box was worth about €50 and 2 plates come in the box. That is, with one box, we would have had enough. No, actually, we would not have had enough if we had only put the front. Then, there we had to put more scraps, maybe with 2 or 3 boxes, but we took a couple more or one more. Perhaps basically in case we made a mistake. If there was one, it broke, or you dropped it, or 1,000 things, then have a spare and be able to use. This question that is repeated a lot, and it's the chipboard countertop, or was the granite one, or something similar too expensive. What differences are there with the rest of the countertops? Well, we have talked in several videos about the chipboard countertops as we have used them quite a bit. In fact, in our house we have a chipboard countertop, in the apartment we put a chipboard countertop, and there are quite a few differences with the rest of the countertops. If the main difference, and the reason why we always choose this material, is the price. If I recall correctly, this countertop costs about €150, and with one countertop we did the whole kitchen. That is to say, the countertop of this kitchen itself costs €150. Regarding the other countertops, the granite one and the others made of porcelain and so on, they do have higher quality. That is, if you hit it, maybe it doesn't mark as much. In this case, if you hit it, it might not mark. But if it's very strong, it will mark. And if you take a knife and do this, well, you're going to damage it. But it's true that for the price quality, I think it gives very good results. And what we proposed in our house at the time, that for example, our countertop must be about 5 years old, 5 or 6 years more or less. It's in very good condition. Obviously, it has little details. I mean, it has some nicks from the passage of time. Once a screwdriver fell from above, boom, the tip fell. Well, a hole was made. Yes, it is. I also don't have 100%, of course. If it were porcelain, if it hadn't broken at that distance, I don't know, I can't speak because I don't have any porcelain countertop. Well, we have some friends who are now telling me, Ivan, that they had it. They don't know if it's porcelain or granite. We don't know. The point is that it wasn't made of chipboard and it has chipped, but of course I don't know that because, as I say, we have only installed chipboard ones and we only know how these work. Our approach was to decide whether to choose an economical option. If after 5 or 6 years or whenever it's very bad, then we remove it and change it again. And in total it's 150 euros, which is not a fortune, as we could be talking that maybe a porcelain one, this piece, these meters, could perfectly be 3,000 or 4,000 euros. So the price difference is very large. I think in our case it's worth it. Because of course it's not the same to have a countertop of 150 and then a tenant comes and scratches it or makes a little hole in it. It's better than having a 3,000 countertop that gets broken. I think that has to be a bit annoying, honestly. That's why we chose this option. If it's bad in 5 years, then we remove this one, change it again for the same design or whatever we want, and that's it. And this one, we can use it, for example, for an exterior, or we can use it for something else. Because as I said, in our house in 5 years, it's very good. It's true that we take care of our house, and it's not for rent, that too. But well, the one in the apartment is already 2 years old and it's quite good too. In fact, it's better than the one in our house. Because the color also influences, I think this, but this would be for another video. The truth, this perhaps if you want, we can talk another day about agglomerated countertops because we have already used various colors. Well, we continue. Have you done any training? I have done some little things at home, but I would love to. You know what happens? That the comments are cut off. As it is a photo, what they have written continues. But it has been cut off, right? The overall question, I believe, is whether I have done any training. As I've mentioned in videos, I trained in an unrelated field that has nothing to do with reforms. I studied advertising and public relations. I specialize in digital marketing, and I didn't actually do any training on what I'm doing right now. It is true that the topic of editing, little things about the channel, algorithms and all this, well, I did control it because in fact it was my job. I've always loved editing. I've liked it a lot. From a very young age, I started editing on the Movie Maker on my father's computer, and I loved editing. As for the YouTube channel topic, I do have training in these types of things, but about renovations and such. It has been more self-taught. I've taken some short courses, especially on the subject of wood, but nothing that has lasted a long time. Rather, these courses, which are a few hours, but everything has been based on learning little by little, improving and striving to learn. And that's it. How will you change the floor with the furniture present? This commonly asked question is important. We're going to remove the baseboard from the bottom, and when we remove that baseboard, we'll put the floor underneath. It's not going to reach the bottom of the kitchen, probably because for that we would have to dismantle it. As many of you have said, we would have to remove the furniture. We had thought about raising the legs, keeping the furniture high, and being able to place it all the way to the back. But well, we'll see, but the point is that we'll remove the baseboard and put it underneath. Most people. Or, well, in our case, in the apartment, we also did it. So we put the floor first and then we put the kitchen, but in this case, the apartment floor was ceramic. So, of course, the ceramic withstands a lot, everything you throw at it, the vinyl too, but it's not comparable to a ceramic. So, of course, if we put the vinyl floor, and then we're gonna fix the bedrooms. For example, today I'm here recording, but they're working. So my mother and my aunt, along with my cousin, are going to start plastering the bedrooms, which, well, implies having mortar around, falling on the floor, getting everything dirty, and that can also scratch the vinyl floor. It would be a shame if everything was new and already scratched. We've also discussed this among ourselves, and that is, we would also have to somewhat fix the exterior part before laying the floor. Because it's true that you go outside, get all muddy, and everything is sticky and full of gravel, and you bring it into the house. And then, of course, all of that falls down here, which is the first thing I would change. It's for a facelift. If it were a kitchen, a facelift, well, there are always little things that can be done. For example, we can paint the kitchen doors, which is what we did in my parents' apartment, and they turned out very cool. In fact, we put some moldings on it, and the door looked practically new. It went from being white and a bit boring, with a simple handle, to a much nicer design in a very, very cool blue. The truth is, it turned out very beautiful. The problem with painting the kitchen, well, we all know what they are, that, well, from cleaning the rice and such, the paint can start to chip a little bit. It's a matter of evaluating if it's the same as the countertop. If over time it ends up lifting, it ends up looking bad, you can always then repaint it, which is what we did. In fact, in our kitchen, we painted it white, and over the years, we repainted a pastel green color. The quality of the paint is fundamental. It's completely different to paint it with one type of paint than with another. For example, the paint used in my parents' apartment, to this day, after many years, it's still intact. It looks like a lacquered painting, as if the kitchen has always been like this, the one in our house too. This last one we put in is incredibly good. Now, others we have put in, well. So the paint we use is fundamental. Another option that I think is a very good idea is to take advantage of the inside of the furniture and change the doors. That is, we buy the doors, we change the hinge, and we would have a practically new kitchen. If in addition to this we add placing some tiles on the front, which can be vinyl, for example, we did this in the Menorca apartment, we put some vinyl tiles. The change is already extreme and it's not much time that needs to be dedicated to it. My partner and I are going to buy a house and it doesn't have a kitchen. Any recommendations? Well, let's see if there's no kitchen. The only thing I would think about is where it could be better located. Because normally we play a little with the disadvantage when we buy a house that already has a kitchen, and it's that you can't place it wherever you want, so you're a bit more limited in that sense, not only in location but also in distribution. A frequently asked question is why we haven't changed the distribution. For instance, the sink back there under the window looks nice. You can wash dishes while enjoying the views, which is pleasant. But honestly, making all the new distribution, all the new drains and pipes until reaching the area, also the electrical issue for the heater, for here, for the countertop, then the hole that needs to be made for the hood's smoke extractor. This, instead of 13 days, would have been a year doing the kitchen then, which is a bit what happened in the apartment. That's also why it took longer. We had to make new drains and everything new, and honestly, it was a lot of work. But if you have nothing and must start from scratch, you improvise a little. That advantage, then you can place it where it suits you best. This question, if what it refers to is a topic, prices and so on, that there are many questions about how much the kitchen has cost now, a little later, I will do the calculation to show you how much this exact kitchen would cost. First, I will do a calculation without the appliances and then the appliances. Because it's true that many times we can take advantage of ours, so it's good to know a price, also without appliances. The truth is I have it noted here, but I have to calculate it because you haven't put the oven and the microwave in the tower. You can't see it in this tower here, or can you? I don't know if maybe we'll get to explain later or not, but we made it that way. Because here at the top is where the heater, the water heater is going to go. That is, there's going to be a heater here and there's going to be another one on the floor above. So we needed a location for here, and here the connections, the outlets, everything was already done. So we needed to find some way to hide it that would also look nice and not be well in sight. So what we thought was to set up this drawer, huge like this, take advantage of the top part to put the thermos, and at the bottom we'll use it for that. For pantry mode, and thus have like a 2-for-1, right? Here we can place pantry items and such, or even cleaning products. Well, in short, whatever you want. The thermos will be slightly visible from the top, appearing as a small protrusion like this. We still don't have it very clear because we have to go take the measurements. That's why this column is not finished yet. 100%. The fact of not having located the thermos in another location, for example outside, has been many of the proposals. It's basically to save us work because we had to repeat the shots and do it again outside and then cover it. Also, so it wouldn't be exposed. This was going to take a long time, and we thought, well, that this solution was quite practical, quite comfortable. In fact, if you have to turn it off or whatever, you can do it from in here and it's not visible, so it was like the perfect option. Where are you going to place the stove? I didn't see that part. Well, the stove doesn't go here in the kitchen. It goes in the dining room, in the living room. And I don't know if this video goes before or after the part where we talk about the stove. But the stove that is like an electric fireplace, imitation fire, that we also put a very similar one in the apartment. Well, basically it's to heat the living room area. Why that arrangement of the ceiling lights? Well, we squared the ceiling lights when the kitchen was not yet installed, and they fall just proportionally in the dimension of the ceiling. It's just that when we finished placing them, we did realize that they had stuck a bit. In the area here of the kitchen, take a look, that the light is right there where I'm just opening this cabinet. We thought that maybe it was too close to the kitchen, but it's actually the most practical because it's right where the work area is. So you can use the light basically for cooking, because even though the kitchen has to be nice to show off, the main goal is to be able to cook peacefully and with good visibility. So I think in the end they were well placed. I have a styrofoam ceiling in my kitchen. I want to know how I can cover it. I'm not sure what the material is, but we had plasterboard plates covering the entire ceiling. In fact, they are still in some areas. What happens is that in others, we have already covered them, and here on the ceiling, specifically in the kitchen. Well, we did it practically at the beginning? No, because it also makes the most dust and generates more dirt. Therefore, we used Aquaplast Renovation. Well, first we used another specific Aquaplast to cover the cracks between the joint, let's say, and then we used Aquaplast Renovation to finish covering all the plates. The truth is, it has turned out incredibly well. The countertop withstands water and high temperatures. There's no problem with water. It withstands it perfectly. Yes, it is true that there is one thing that we have not yet explained, but we are going to do. And we did this in the sink apartment. Like induction, they are not really stuck. That is, you can take it out. Now it's going to make me look bad, and I can't because it's not stuck yet. And we have not stuck it. Because first we want to cover everything around the countertop with acrylic putty. That is this little piece of chipboard that you see here. All of this will have to be covered on the inside, in case a little bit of water seeps in, so that the countertop doesn't get damp and therefore swell up. It's a form of protection. We'll do it both here and in the arbitro area. Don't show it because, as I said, we haven't completely finished it yet. These small details will be completed gradually as we progress, since the baseboard cannot be placed without the floor. In short, there are things that can't be advanced without doing others. And the faucet, as you can see, is not installed because the crown stopped working properly. That is doing well. The whole of so many since we have made, and we preferred to buy another one that worked well and not ruin the drill trying to make the hole. Basically, the issue of high temperatures, if it withstands them, well, it's not porcelain. That is, I wouldn't risk taking a burning pot and putting it on top. I wouldn't risk it. I mean, it might withstand it. I don't know because I haven't tried it, but I wouldn't risk it. Would I put something on top? Or maybe you just leave it on top of the stove, and when you have to put it on the table, then you take it directly. It will make a burning dish. I'm referring to a dish that is very hot. No problem because we use it almost every day, but a pot like this, fresh off the fire, a bit more risky. Yes, I see it. That was the hardest thing to do in the whole kitchen. Looking back, honestly, there's nothing that I found super mega difficult to say. Oh, incredibly difficult. I mean, there really hasn't been anything that you would say is very, very, very difficult if I had to say something, but not because it's difficult, but because it's entertaining. It would be hanging the upper furniture, but basically because you have to take the measurement very well so that they all fall at the same height. And then, well, adjust the doors so that they are well aligned. And this is not difficult, but it is entertaining. Dedicate some time to adjust it well, take correct measurements, and make proper holes. I would dare to say yes, that was the most entertaining part. What paint did you use on the drywall? Well, the paint we used was the anti-condensation joint compound, which works very well. We had already used it at home several times and, well, to prevent moisture and all that, I think it works very well, so that's the paint we used here. The question, the answer is all our doubts. Well, we can make more doubt videos. If you leave them in some questions and answers, we can make more videos. Like this, answering in more detail. About the little things, why haven't you put LED lights under the furniture? It would have looked great. We considered it then. In fact, the shot surely was seen in the final video because it was impossible to hide it, but notice that it's this one, right here, I am here. These are the cables that are going to go, so we don't have to leave a cable plugged in here. The LED light, but it's going to go, it will come directly from the wall itself. Not only does it look very nice, which it also looks very cool, but it's also very comfortable. In the apartment, we have it and use it the most. We don't have it at home, but I would love to put it there. But there are so few upper cabinets that you wouldn't see much because you didn't put the upper cabinets all the way to the ceiling. Many people have told me this, and look, imagine the furniture comes up to about this height for me, which is roughly head height. If I open it and go to things, this is my access. We're talking that there's about 15 centimeters more to the ceiling. That is, the furniture would come up to here for me. Therefore, to the top part, I would practically have to climb a ladder. It seemed to me that it was very unbalanced to give it more height. Notice that all this would have to be furniture height. They would be very high up because we chose this height. Well, basically, we chose this height because of the front. The front, this one is 60, and then we took advantage of this height to place the furniture. We thought it was the best way to do it because cutting tiles at such a short distance can't be done with a manual cutter. And we had to do it with a grinder, and with a grinder it's very difficult to make a straight cut. I'm sure that anyone who works with a grinder every day must make some impressive cuts. But for us who don't usually use the grinder, it was going to be very difficult and the result would be a mess. So we preferred to give it just the right height so that the furniture would fall right on top of the tile and we wouldn't have to make any cuts in it. All of this may seem coincidental, but it was actually well thought out and premeditated. Before we did the kitchen, we had everything down to the millimeter to make sure it turned out well. And in the end, unforeseen circumstances can always arise, but it's about resolving them to the best of your ability. And in the end, well, make it as beautiful as possible. We already have a super long video. And here the team is telling me that they need to make noise and they can't be so long without making noise on a construction site. Logically, so I have many questions left, many questions still to answer, so I will make a second part, but I want to answer 2 questions before ending this video. Logically, one that I find very interesting, which is if I would have done something different if it had been for me and not for rent. And the truth is that seeing it like this, just as we see it right now, I think that even if it had been for me, I wouldn't have done anything different. I would have done it just as I think it would have been this, the kitchen. Yes, if instead of having been destined for a vacation rental, it had been for my own use and enjoyment, I think I wouldn't have missed anything that is there. In fact, the most important things, which are dishwasher, vitro, oven, are there, so no, I don't think so. And then, about the price, I have the portable document format here. I have it. The kitchen without appliances, that is, without the fridge, without the vitro, without the hood, without the oven, and without the dishwasher. It costs 3,249 euros. That is all the furniture, countertop front, upper cabinets, column, interior part of the column, side finishes of the fridge, upper furniture of the fridge. That is, the set of all without the appliances would be 3,249 euros. And if we add the appliances, which would be the complete pack, complete. We are talking about 4,458 euros, which here we would add what we have mentioned. I was personally very surprised by the price. I think it's a super affordable price for how beautiful the design is, but above all also because of the quality issue. Because look at the piece of door, which is with its handle. In short, it is a sturdy door. I don't know what you guys thought. Leave it all in the comments. And if you have, well, other doubts that we have not answered, which I already anticipate, that's surely not, because there are pending doubts. I do another recap and another little while I sit here and we answer all the doubts. I hope you like this video, that everything could be understood a little better, the little things that have been a bit scattered, that have become a little clearer. And we are going to continue with the work that they are waiting for me with open arms. As I said, see you very soon on the channel. See you soon.